and I'm going to try to not be, kind of a fear monger, but it is super important that we understand what could happen good on the good side and what could happen on the bad side. So we're going to discuss three good things, and then we're going to discuss four bad things. And it already appears that the market is getting some type of relief at this point, which is good, but it's still some a crazy amount of uncertainty out there. But the number one reason why we will not have a recession is that this economy is resilient. And this is no particular order, you guys, by the way. Just saying that the number one reason. The economy is resilient. And why do I say that? We went through several years of inflation super high, and the GDP was still super robust for an economy of like $30 trillion economy. We were still growing at 2, 3, sometimes 4%. Unemployment stayed very, very robust. Yeah, we have pockets that are not, but even through 2022, when we had that bear market for the stock market, we did not go into a recession because this economy has been resilient. As long as we have people employed at the levels that we have them at, we're not going to go in a recession. Even I know that people might cut back, but they won't cut back that much because they still have a job. So the economy, if it stays resilient, we're not going to see a recession, and that's a decent possibility, you guys. The number two reason, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is that the administration might be really trying to change the globalization of obviously the globe and make it even more advantageous for the United States. So I know right now the administration has been saying that we've been getting screwed and that other countries have been taking advantage of us. But that is hard for me to comprehend because we are the world superpower, not only militarily, but economically. And we've only got stronger over the last several years. The American exceptionalism has only got more. And so, yeah, it's some things that can improve with our trading partners, but to say we've been screwed is hard for me, or we've been taken advantage of. We are the world's economic power by far. This is why all the other markets are dropping as well. When we get sick, everyone else gets a flu. They get, you know, they have to go to the doctor and get on IVs. If the administration is trying to negotiate even better terms for the United States, then that could be a game changer. Obviously, it doesn't help everyone that's lost so much money to this point. But if you're still in the game, it's going to help you get it back. If they are trying to negotiate to the point where Vietnam, it's very little restrictions, if at all, for America to do business there. No tariffs, no other type of restrictions. If we are in places like Taiwan, places like the European Union, places like China, it's all free trade, very similar to how it's been the for Mexico and Canada and the United States for so many years until recently. If that is the case, that will be a global boom, and especially for the United States. And you guys, that's a possibility. That's a possibility. That is one and a big reason why we wouldn't go into a recession is that the administration is really just trying to improve the United States situation globally in just a dramatic way and not trying to become protectionism, not trying to close our borders, not trying to close ourselves out from the rest of the world. They're not trying to do that, then it's going to be a hit. And the market is going to absolutely love it. And we're going to be back to all time highs before we can blink. Now, Another reason why we're not going to go into recession, the third reason, is that the Fed is going to come to our rescue. And I don't know how they're going to do that now, but the way they came to the rescue during COVID was ways that I never thought that they can do. For example, I knew they can buy government bonds, but I didn't know that they can buy corporate bonds, bonds from all these different publicly traded companies, good and bad. That was a crazy amount of stimulus that they did, that they were able to do off balance sheet without increasing the national debt, technically not increasing it. Maybe the Fed has some tricks in their arsenal to be able to save us, to minimize this damage. And also, in lines with the Fed, is that I know I talked about the administration a second, but this is kind of like 3A, is that the administration is trying to remove a lot of regulation, what they have done to this point, and maybe a lot more. I don't know how much more they can do, but they have, and they're going to pass these additional tax cuts, and maybe that might be crazy stimulative, right? No taxes on Social Security. A lot of 65 plus year olds or anyone that's receiving Social Security is no tax on it. That's definitely awesome, right? No tax on tips. Most most servers these days in restaurants or Uber drivers or whatever the case may be, they get their tips on credit cards now, so they can't avoid not paying taxes. Well, that can be stimulative to potentially you know lower income um, individuals that will spend their money to help this economy, on groceries and whatever the case may be. So those are plausible reasons why we won't have a recession, in my opinion. And it's not no fantasy stuff. That can really happen. Either of those three options. Now, the three reasons why we will have a recession is that the administration is serious about using tariffs for revenue source to offset the tax cuts that they want to implement. They're serious about this is going to be the new way that we do business globally. And then we're going into recession and it's going to be nasty. Very, very nasty. So saying the traders say, close all watertight doors because it's going to be nasty. So let's hope that's not the case. But that could be, right? The only reason I'm saying that is because number two, businesses will start cutting employees and cutting them very, very, very fast to cut the cost that they have to pay to do business in other countries and cut the cost that they have to do to bring supplies back to, or the stuff they sell back to the United States. Because right now, China is matching our tariffs. So if I'm Apple, I'm trying to do business there, and there I'm getting hit with their restrictions. And then when I bring those iPhones back over to the United States, I'm getting hit there. They will cut employees at levels we haven't seen since the Great Recession. That's plausible, you guys. Another another third and probably the most plausible one, and if this continues for too long, this will be the case, is that the consumers, they take us in a recession because they just start cutting back because they're fearful. They're scared that they might lose their jobs, even though they haven't, or their companies are not, are trying to reinforce that they're not going to be cutting. People will start reducing their spending to levels that businesses have to start cutting. The economy slows down too much, and we take ourselves into a recession. All plausible as well. I'm obviously hoping that we do not go into recession, but it depends on the administration at this point. Or you could say this is another kind of outside of the three areas, is that Congress takes back their powers, to tax, because a tariff is a tax. It's a tax, you guys. There's no other way of getting around it. It's a tax, and as long as I've been living until recently, I could count on Republicans not taxing me. I can count on them not taxing me for the most part. You did have the first Bush that had to, raise some taxes. Remember to read my lips. If would be no new taxes. But you guys get my point. If you read any conservative books, if you read any libertarian books, it's not about taxing. It's not about tariffs. So we're going to need Congress to kind of take over that, take back those powers, and limit the the current administration and future administrations from being able to have this type of power over the global economy. Yeah, the president should have the power to be able to, you know, put on or levy tariffs for a short period of time, but it should be able to. Congress should have to make it permanent. So whatever that time frame is, maybe it's 30 days, 60 days, something like that, and then Congress has to do it. Well, if that's the case, no one's going to, get scared or change too many things if it's only a 30 or 60-day time frame and Congress has to pass it. And that's just hard to do because people understand it's a tax. So then it's just one of those things that we kind of realize. I didn't, all these years and all this reading and stuff, you didn't realize that the chief executive had that much power still, right? I thought, our founding fathers put checks and balances, and maybe they did, and it was some loopholes. There's always loopholes, and this is one of those that has been, executed to make the administration have so much power. And so I'm not trying to be political, you guys, because that's not my thing. My thing is about making money and helping members make as much money as they can, and in this type of situation, help members save as much money as they can save without, being put on the sidelines. I vote Republican. I'm married a Republican. I have a lot of family members that are Republicans, a lot of friends that are Republicans. I'm an independent, and I love both sides. I like to vote Democratic. I like to vote Republican. And just like most people, I vote based on my pocketbook. If someone's going to talk about taxing trading, taxing the markets, I'm obviously not going to be for that person. So we need these three things to happen. One of these three things to happen to avoid a recession, and that's what I'm hoping for. And so we'll see how things play out.